Have you guys done Kahoot before?
Yeah.
What is blended learning is the question. And at the bottom of the screen and on yours should be the red, yellow, and blue areas. You pick which one you think it is.
No.
30 seconds might be that long. So the majority of you chose students learn in part through digital online learning, and that is correct. Having one-to-one technology is very useful, and having kids use iPads during center time is useful too, but it depends what they're doing. Which is better for learning, technology or books? Trick question.
I'm going to go with both.
I don't read.
This isn't going to be good.
All right. So we're actually going to talk about that right now. I'm going to go into my presentation. Welcome to Blended Learning. My name is Denise Bush, and I teach 4th grade at Wellman Elementary. And I've been using blended learning trying it on and off for 2 years now. My question to you was, sorry, I'm not an IT person. Some of that stuff gets asked me. Sorry. Usually when something comes up, I have to think about it. Okay. So which is better? That was my question to you guys. And you would think that because I'm speaking at a technology conference that my answer would be technology, of course. But really, honestly, the answer depends. It depends on how technology is being used. These are both just tools to help our students. And I have seen technology used in a wide variety of ways. Some of them not so great. The one question about having kids sit in a corner and play iPads, just playing away. If kids are not trained what to do and have a specific thing that they should be doing, then a lot of times they're going to end up doing things they should not do. And so in that instance, technology is not furthering their understanding. It's not making you a more effective teacher. It's just giving them something to do so you can work with another group at your table. So both of these are tools, and I think that textbooks and magazines, all those forms of media also have a place in our schools. So we are inundated with all kinds of technology. But does that make for effective learners? Or does it drive you crazy? It can drive teachers crazy too, trying to put all these different pieces together. Blended learning means that you are blending technology into your lessons and in a way that it is beneficial to the student, trying to individualize for the student, trying to help them grow and succeed. And it is a way to engage them. For millions of years, apes, cavemen have been using technology, and they're using it to obtain a goal. Think about it. It's not like they found the stick and said, what can I do with this? I mean, that'd be like taking your iPad because a new shiny gadget comes out and says, what can I do with this iPad? Woo! And you should be thinking about what is it I want for my students. I became interested in blended learning. 2 years ago, I took 21st Century Learning at our AAA, and there's this teeny tiny little snippet on blended learning. And I went back to my principal and I said, this is awesome, I want to know more about it, I want to know how to do it. And a year ago, I saw this in the linker, and it was through the Albo Institute, Blended Learning Practitioners Circle. We used the book Blended, Using Disruptive Innovations to Improve Schools. We used Moodle and weekly webinars. We met with the authors, teachers and principals that were in schools that were completely blended. Blended, just because you're one-to-one, having all these different tech gadgets does not equal blended learning. It goes beyond that one-to-one and all those different tech tools, and it's not a babysitter. Students should receive a more personalized learning experience. There are 4 models. I'm not blended learning. I'm not going to spend time on these. These are where the teacher is mainly online and doing the teaching that way. But they are flex model, a la carte. A la carte is the one you see a lot of times in high schools, where kids are actually in high school, but they're taking a course, maybe through Kirkwood or some other place, and enrich virtual. What I'm going to focus on are all rotation models. Station rotation, most elementary teachers are familiar with that, like reading centers where you rotate between the different stations. When you're talking blended, at least one of those needs to be through technology, one of those stations. Lab rotation is very similar to station. It's just that they are leaving the classroom and going to the lab. A flipped classroom, I know a lot of you have heard about flipped classrooms. There's some pros and cons to that. That is where students are pre-learning some knowledge ahead of time before the lesson, before they come in and do the lesson. Some teachers, and we'll talk about that in the pros and cons, will use it as watch the lesson at home, come to school, do the homework. But there's no integrating what the students know or grouping them. And then individualized rotation sounds awesome, but it's a lot of work because you have to come up with an individualized playlist for each and every kid, for every skill that they need to work on. And they work on those in order. And during the rotation time, they only go to the stations that they need either enriched in or help with. All right, so pros and cons to blending. And I kind of want this to be interactive. You know, I'm used to 4th graders who are blurting things out or raising their hands. So if you have a question, just raise your hand or blurt something out, or if you know something about this, go right ahead. Pros and cons. So students can feel successful and they're engaged. The reason I say they can feel successful is that through my rotation stations, they are working on things at their level. And I will show you guys a couple different websites that I use that individualizes it to their needs. They take a pretest and it figures out where they are, and then when they go into the lessons, they're solely based on where they're at. So it's adaptive. Teachers can streamline their instruction to help all students reach their full potential and individualize. And I'll show you, I do flip in 4th grade, which sounds crazy, but I'll show you how I do that to individualize their instruction during that rotation time in reading and math. Cons, by not setting goals, by just not understanding and trying to individualize for the student and just saying, here, go to everyday math and play this game, or go take the iPad, pick out a reading game for today. Misuse by teachers. You know, and specifically I'm thinking about flipping here. There are teachers, I know of teachers, I went through this with my own son, that he'd watch the math lesson at home, go to school, do a worksheet, and the teacher was sitting at the computer. She was not interacting with the kids during that time. Instead of taking the information from the night before and grouping them to see who needs more help or who could go on and do something else with it, they just came in, it was complete flip, you know, homework in school, lecture at home. But I've also seen it through my son done wonderfully, where the science teacher, Amber Bridge, she presented yesterday, she would do the lecture from home, and it was a very engaging lecture. And then they would come to school, and she would have more time for the hands-on activities and discussions with the kids. So there's good and bad. It just is all up to how the teacher is using it, and also preparing their students. You know, my son, another reason he didn't do very well is he doesn't pay attention in class to a lecture. So he wasn't paying close attention to a lecture on the computer either. So it doesn't necessarily work for all kids. The students abusing technology, you know, I've seen kids, not as much in my class because I really do prep them about what they should and shouldn't be doing during that time, but in other classes where teachers say, oh, in the morning I just want you to go on to your blog and do this, or go to this website and do that. And they're completely not doing the right thing. They'll have 3 tabs open, and as the teacher walks by, they'll click on the one they're supposed to be on. So misuse by students. And of course, technology isn't always reliable. So you do have to have a backup. You know, how many times is your server down? Can you think of any other pros or cons? Have any of you tried any form of blended learning? What do you do?
I have a rotation small group. I teach middle school math, so we have an online program called Alex McGraw-Hill. So they all kind of work on that, and based on their last test score, I pull small groups, whether it's
Awesome.
who are right close to being proficient or far from.
Right. Good. We have Alex in our building too, but just for our SDP tag kids. Yeah. Anybody else want to share anything? Do you see any pros or cons with it?
Yeah, usually I kind of set it up pretty well. So I hardly have issues of them abusing it, but a lot of them, the few that aren't very go-getters, they struggle with doing that independent work of constantly wanting to add topics. So kids that are more go-getters,
you definitely have to have it set up and they know exactly what they're doing. Exactly. So flipping for 4th grade. The way that I do this is, in my building, the kids start coming in at 7:50. And somewhere between 7:50 and 8:05, most of the kids are there. Unless they ride a late bus that comes at 8:15. We start our day at 8:25. So up on the board, I write, sharpen 2 pencils, put your planner on your desk, and then the next thing says, Bush Math, lesson 2.7, whatever lesson we're on that day. So they go get their Chromebooks, and they sit down and go to my Bush website, open up the lesson, and I'll show you the lesson. I created on Google Sites a math website, and I also have social studies and their reading also on there. And they click on the lesson. What the first thing usually is a short video. You know, I need to stay within 3 to 5 minutes. You know, there's some really great 7-minute videos out there, but you'll lose them. So I try to stick around that 3 to 5 minute video, and then I have them practice the skill. A lot of times it might be IXL, or there are games. You know, there are some good games out there that allow them to practice those skills. So I'll put a link into whatever the practice is. Then the next step is a Google form, and that is their exit ticket, so that I can see how they did on that pre-assessment. And it is wonderful because I can group them for that day for what their needs are. Oops, went the wrong way. So this is, I'm going to open it up because this is just a screenshot of my site. It's pretty rudimentary. You can set your own up, however. It's really not hard. How many of you have a Google site? It's not that hard. 5th graders can do it, right? All right, so this is for Unit 2. This is the unit we're finishing up. And I'm going to go down to 2.7 because that's the graph I will pull up in a minute too. And in lesson 2.7, actually I split it between 3 days because it was 3 different skills. Day one was ballpark estimates, and for some of the place value and ballpark estimates are really rough for some kids. So there's a full day on that, and then there's the partial sums edition, and then the standard algorithm edition. So if they came in for day one, if that said that on the board, that this is a video. I like to use YouTube, but there's also like Show Me and just a slew of different teacher sites out there for videos. I also like to use View Pure if I'm using YouTube. You guys ever use View Pure? It's nice because then it doesn't have all of the garbage. You know, if you just go straight to YouTube, it has all those other videos, and then another one will start playing. View Pure only shoots out that video. Here's one for View Pure. You just go to their website and put in the YouTube. It only works with YouTube videos. See how it doesn't have all that other stuff around the side? But back to this. So they'll watch a video, and then they have, they read the directions, review the place value by breaking numbers down in expanded form, play level 2, play 5 to 10 rounds and quit. I found with this year's class, I had to tell them exactly how many times to play because they would spend 20 minutes playing this one game. For his last class, I was like, I'm done, and we'd go on to the next thing. And then they have a Google form. Now, you notice that before I had them embedded. Last year's class liked them embedded. I asked this year's class, and they said, no, we hate it, because they hate scrolling through the form right there. And honestly, I don't like them there because it just makes the website so huge and clunky looking. So I was happy they said they wanted their exit tickets to link out. So they would just follow the directions, and this was ballpark estimates, so they would put in here 30 plus 20 equals 50. And finish the rest of this, and then put their name. I found putting their name last was helpful because then they knew they were done. When I had it at the beginning, they would sometimes put their name in and not scroll through and realize there were 2 more questions or so. And then all they have to do is hit submit, say bye, and go back to the website. And then if they finish that, there'll be other things on the board to do, like AR tests or check out, those types of things. So that's my website. And then I use the information from there. When you do a Google form, it puts it into a sheet, all of their answers, so that it's easy to look out. Now, I did find that when we were doing the standard algorithm and partial sums, things like that, it was a lot easier for them to just write it on the paper because, yeah, I could see their answers, but I couldn't see how they made the mistake. So it's trial and error. Another thing is we used Nearpod this week for doing line plots, and then they're supposed to be doing a bar graph today with Nearpod. We'll see if there's any tiers because honestly, some of them are perfections, and it's hard to draw on a computer or an iPad. And those kids that, you know, they like it to look exactly how they want it to look, they would rather draw. So you can do both. You could leave it up to them to draw it on the computer or put it in the file. But it's easy to sort through the information, and here's that lesson we were just looking at. Make it bigger. All right, so you can see that I have the correct answer highlighted, and all I have to do is go straight down and see who has it, who kind of has it, and who really needs help with this skill. It was really cool. Well, there's 2 cool things. The other day, everybody understood the strategy that we were working with, and so I scrapped my plans, did a 5-minute mini lesson just to kind of review that. It was the standard algorithm. And then I put them into, I let them partner up and we play games from our unit. I had some kids working on some work they needed to make up, and I could pull individuals or partners to the back table. My principal walked in and he goes, "How do you have time for this?" I'm like, well, if I know what my kids need, I can do it. I can just drop it and do whatever I need to do. So I was able to pull kids to the back table and work on place value, because we all know how yucky that is if you teach in elementary. Teach place value to my 4 kiddos that were still struggling with that, and then a couple other ones with ballpark estimates. So it really has changed how I teach math. Even though I've been teaching in rotations for a couple years, by being able to have a preview of what kids already know, and this gives me more information than just the pretest, you know, because from the pretest until 7.2 or 5.7, you know, they may have learned some of that stuff along the way, so why put them together? I had a boy who has always been in the tag math, and he gets pulled out for that, and there's 4 of them in my room. They're all in my room. And they're so used to always being together in math. That was their rotation together. And one of the boys turned to me on Thursday and he said, "Mrs. Bush, when are we ever just going to be in the same group?" And I said, "Probably never. It changes every day." Because believe it or not, those 4 kids they had gaps and holes too, you know, in the geometry. And in trading across zeros, there were 2 of them in that high group that were being pulled that messed up and were not subtracting across the zeros. So it also gives students an opportunity to be experts. This kiddo right here is usually not an expert, but last year he understood, I don't remember what it was, if it was multiplication or division, some step, it was division. And he totally understood how to do it, and there were only like 4 kids. He repeatedly knew how to do it, and he could show me he could do it. And so during my rotations, I allowed 2 kids to be experts. And so they helped other kids who were just not quite there. And it worked great. So during my rotations, I meet with kids. They might be playing games or doing work together. There's some kids here you can see are doing their technology time. And we'll get to what I have them do during that tech rotation. So my station rotations, I consider that my win time, the RTI time, what I need time. And I use online components that adapt to those students' needs. One of them is Front Row. I know you talked about Alex. Front Row is free. They just added reading this year. They changed their whole website. So I'm just getting adjusted to it. Do you use Front Row? Do you love it?
We're just starting with it too, but so far I really like it.
I love it. It gives the teacher information too. It breaks it down by the different standards. I mean, oh my gosh, you could have a printout page that is so long. If you want it, you know, use it for what it's worth. But it does. It adapts to their level. The other cool thing is that if they miss a problem, then it'll pop up with both reading. They can either read it to see how to solve a problem like that, or there's a video, so they can click on the video, so it depends on what type of learner they are. And then they get another chance to try it. If they miss it again, it says, why don't you go ask one of these 4 people? And it'll put people's names in the class that have mastered that skill. And so here we are in work time, you'll see a kid get up and go tap somebody on the shoulder and say, come here, can you come back to my computer? And they'll go back to their computer and that kid will help them with that problem. So I love Front Row. And I do, at the end of this, was my presentation pushed out to you guys? If not, I'll give you a tiny URL. I'll make one up quick. Because I'll let you sign in under my daughter in our class, and you can see what it looks like from a student perspective. Zeal is another one. Has anybody tried that one? Zeal. My kids love, we haven't started Zeal yet this year, but my kids loved it last year. It's nice to have more than one thing for them to use sometimes, because they get bored with one. The other nice thing about these 2, yeah, there are kind of games, but that's not the focus. They have to answer questions, and on Front row, they get little coins that go in their piggy bank and they dress a pig. Okay, they're in 4th grade, but guess what? They get so excited. And actually some kids are just saving up their coins to see how many they can get. There's also fact practice on front row. Zeal is another great one. This is math and literacy. It actually has a writing component too. It walks them through the writing process. Last year's class loved that one, and then they published it on their blog. And this is also free, and it provides information to me. It is also adaptive, so it's working at their level. IXL, have any of you used IXL? I love IXL. It's not free. They do have a 30-day free trial. It does not adapt to your kids. So I use this one in my flip on specific skills. You can still use it even if you are not a member. It's tied, when you go in from a computer, it's tied to that computer because you don't sign in as somebody. And you get like 10 free questions a day. My kids will be playing along and they'll go, this popped up. And now they know. It pops up and says, oh, you've run out of free minutes. Would you like to join? And I just say, X out, say goodbye. So it is really nice. I don't think it's that expensive, but on school budgets, classroom budgets, you just can't pay for everything.
It's about $250 for a subscription for 25 students, and I know we use it for our whole middle school, so we just create 25 generic logins for all teachers, and so it's not individualized, but at least it doesn't limit them.
Yeah, right, because if they're all using the same computers too, it would be 10 a day. I used IXL when my son was struggling in 7th grade math. I had him practice on that, because that does pop up too and tell you how to do the problem if you miss it.
What's with Zeal, what would, like if I was Google searching that, where would I, because I'm typing in Zeal and I'm getting a million different things.
I
had something come up, but it said teacher login and there was nowhere for me to, that's what came up.
That's what I saw too.
So I couldn't create a class or anything.
I'm not sure. Let's play around with it. We have some time. Yeah, we should have some time to kind of.
She found
Did
it.
you find it?
It's like home.zeal.com.
You have to do the home.
Yeah.
And they've changed their website too.
Yeah, that worked. Thank you.
So social studies, I said that also in my little blurb that I'm going to start using blending in social studies. I have a heck of a time trying to get through anything, through the entire what I'm supposed to go through, because social studies keeps getting scrunched, the time scrunched, and I know a lot of districts don't even have social studies in elementary, and that bothers me. But I have had a Google site for a number of years, and that provides a way, like in 4th grade we study the regions, and I always have the kids at the beginning of the year draw a state, and that is their state that they're going to study all year. So as we talk about landforms, natural resources, all climate, all those different areas, they will find out for their state. So they apply that knowledge that we talk about. Last year I tried Classroom Google. Have any of you tried Classroom? You can use it with elementary and middle school kids. The thing I love about it is, and I'm going to do it in Writer's Workshop this year too, is that it creates a folder. As soon as you create an assignment, it creates a folder in my Google Drive with the title of that assignment, and all of their stuff goes in there. So I no longer have to hunt and fish in my drive to put them in their own folder. It's wonderful. And they click when they're done, and then it goes into your folder. I did a group project and an individual project on Classroom Google. I'm starting out this year with one, and my hopes are by using Classroom Google that I can do a station rotation so that maybe we can get through things a little faster. Start with the whole class introduction of the topic, just a really brief short one, and then during the rest of the social studies time, The students can work on individual state projects on their topic through Google Classroom or my social studies site. Read more about the topic through text or iPad apps I bought through Kids Discover. I think that's what I call it, Kids Discover. There's iPad apps that you can use about all different things. And there's also books. I think I brought the books. These books. Have you seen these? Magazines. Yeah, and then there's activities online that go with them, so kids can do that. I mean, you print it out and you can have them do it. And then I can work in small groups to reinforce the topic, go further with the topic, and introduce new tech skills because, yeah, isn't it fun to have 19, 20, 25, 26 kids sitting out in front of you with nobody else in the room, and you're trying to teach them how to use a website or how to do a project or a presentation, and it's a mess. So it's nicer to do it in small groups that way. And then I can also walk around and help individuals. Maybe I don't know, we haven't started it yet. Maybe I'm being too, I don't know, we'll see. There is a classroom video, that was the one that was playing. You can watch that on your own time if you want to. And then these are different, at the end of this presentation, these are different sites to check out. Obviously this presentation is on there. The Bush Social Studies site. I created a classroom in Google for you guys if you wanted to check it out. This is just, it's bare bones. I didn't spend a lot of time on it. But this is part of an assignment that they're going to do on landforms. I did not include a document for you guys to fill out because I didn't think you'd really want an assignment. So the things that are on here, we talked about landforms. I included a video in case they couldn't remember something about landforms. And then this document is in their assignment. It's a sample of what theirs will look like. I always use Iowa. And maybe it'll come up. It's kind of slow. So you'll be able to click on this and view this also.
I use Google Classroom. I'm a big Edmodo user. I've been using Edmodo for a really long time, so I tried the Google Classroom this year. I teach English, 8th grade English. And I did find that it was a challenge because once a student turns in an assignment,
They can't go back.
they can't go back. I am now the owner of that assignment, so I can add comments to a student's writing, but they cannot view those comments. They
Really? Okay.
No, because
They
once
cannot-
they
they cannot
turn
submit it.
in the
Yeah, they just
assignment,
unsubmit it.
I am now the owner of that assignment. If I grade it, they have a view only of the document, and they cannot view comments unless.
Can you change that?
I scrapped it. I used Google Classroom last year too, and they didn't do that last year. This year, I just scrapped
they
it
changed
because
that.
my students, I read their writing every single day. It's
Right.
just a constant process, and they could make a copy. If they made a copy, then they could see my comments. But that
I
just
think if you
became so
return it,
cumbersome.
they can see the comments.
So we didn't do that anymore.
If you return it?
Yeah, there's like, once you write all your comments and you grade it, you have to return it to them and then they can see the
And
comments.
then
Or the kids can
they
go
make
in and just
revisions, though?
unsubmit it.
They can, if they unsubmit it, they have to
That
unsubmit
didn't
it.
work. That didn't work.
Oh.
They unsubmitted it, and then it was a disaster. It was a mess. So
It's not everything that I had hoped it would be.
Yeah. They made some changes this year that I'm not.
Well,
Hopefully it'll
that
work.
stinks
For
now
what
that
you
I'm
want to
starting
do.
to put all these assignments on there. Maybe I'll just keep them on my Google site. I don't know.
Yeah, I was disappointed.
I was hopeful, because I do like that everything goes into that folder.
I know.
We have so
And
many
then our
things.
school, we use Safari. So our school has like where I can access all of my kids' folders, but the Google Classroom, it creates the folder for them,
Mhm.
but those files were not in a file that I could access. It just created a lot of problems. It might be different for your school, but for my school, it was just terrible.
Huh, interesting. Okay. So try out Google Classroom if you want to. And I included a link. This is the student video. This is Albo Institute. They're the ones that I took my course from, and they're constantly having courses. Here's front row. You can log in as a student, and you can use Caitlin Bush and the class code right there. Zeal, this is my class code. They changed this. You used to have to put in the class code, put in your name, and then you had a password. Now it just puts up all your students, which I don't necessarily like because I don't know if a kid clicks on the wrong kid. But you can go in as Caitlin and try that out. So this was not shared with you guys? Okay, let me do that.
So for all these resources that you use, especially the ones that kind of adapt to them, students remember all their login information fine, and so they have different logins for everything.
Yeah, we write them down. They have a place that they write them down in their planner, and I know that's not completely private, but you know, for the purposes that we're using, yeah. Because you know, they have another one for AR and another one for everyday math, and yeah, and to sign into Google. They have all kinds of stuff, but they're pretty good. Once they've done it a number of times. Well, the other thing with front row, once you type in your name and you've used the password before, as soon as you click in for, it shows up down below, and then they can just click it. Okay, let me make a tiny URL and project that. I'm sorry it's not there. All right, there is a link to my presentation. Was anything shared out? In
Yeah.
my presenter thing?
Your website was.
My website was?
Yeah,
Okay.
under shared resources.
This was supposed to be in there too, I'm sorry.
I have a question about
Yeah.
front row. We used it last year, and it seems like this year we're limited. Did you notice anything that has changed at the beginning of the school year? Are you still getting the same reports as before?
I have not gone in, well, I went into the reports. I couldn't find one of them I used last year. And I don't remember what it was called, but it was really nice because it would have the kid and you could click on the different domains. Are you limited in getting the report that you want or limited in the use?
Well, I just started playing with it again, and I wondered if they went with a paid version.
There is a paid version.
Last year it was free?
I don't know if they had a free and a paid or not.
Seems like we had access to everything last year, like we would go and set up assignments for them, but I don't see that an option this year. Individually set up
I haven't done that
assignments.
yet this year.
And there's a place where, you know, your school is now, so I wonder if they bumped up some of those premium stuff.
I know Zeal also, you only have access to so much. I think with Zeal, the kids stop being able to do whatever it's not a piggy bank, I don't remember what it is, after so many months in Zeal. So then they didn't want to play it as much. I know, everybody wants money.
It just seemed too good to be true last year. Wow, this is amazing,
know.
and I feel like we lost some of those good features.
Any questions? My email is on, let's maybe I can go through all of them. My email is also on the presentation. That is on the very last page. If you want to shoot me, if you're trying something out and want to shoot me an email. Also. You guys are so quiet.
It's early.
It's early. Yeah, I know. Does anybody flip in here?
You tried it.
Too? You tried it, you don't like it?
A lot of my kids don't have internet at home, so it's
Yeah.
I've tried it where they do it all at home, or we flip it like in the class period where they watch the videos and try stuff, and then we do it in group. All right.
Yeah.
It's tough to get started.
Do you flip?
Well, yes and no, but we have our algebra class, is our first year of flipping it, and we have had issues with attacks on our server. And so it completely overloaded our system, so kids couldn't access anything. So then we're halfway through our flipped. You've got kids all over, and then having to pull them back. Some are 2 weeks ahead, some are,
Oh, wow.
and it's self-paced too. So
Oh,
we did
well,
self-paced flip.
that is good for kids.
Right, and it became a nightmare.
Were they watching the videos at home, or was it at school?
Here and there, we have intervention time built into our day, so 28 minutes. So a lot of kids like to get that done during that time in study halls. But they couldn't do it during the school day, so it was tough. Some of the kids liked it, some of the kids didn't like it. So
I think
it's
math, it can work really well. It really can. You know, if you can get that lesson in a short lesson, it'd have to be a condensed lesson, just to get an idea of what to do with them during the day. So, if you want to leave, you can. Or if you have questions, you can come up and ask me. Or you can just play around on my website or
so I just added this presentation.
Yes, thank you.